Hello and welcome to Pulibrus Fireside Chats. Not as good as any others, but hey, it's something. Now this episode is going to be coming up right before the 12th, before the 12th, so it'll be before Nebraska and California District 25 hold their elections. There's one person that's relevant to this story, but we'll get to her when we get to her. I just want to give a shout out to Kara Eastman, who's running again. Let's see if she makes it do the general this time around. Hopefully she does. Okay, so with that housekeeping out of the way, let's get right into the news. So first is a story that kind of adds on to a story from last week. The insurgent left learns to live with super PACs. Just as Democrats are forming their own super PAC, the latest liberal group to adopt big money fundraising and spending operation as the left tries to imagine a movement post-Bernie Sanders presidential campaign. The move is the latest example of the party's liberal wing embracing the fundraising strategies that have been scorned by some on the left. A group of top aides of the Sanders presidential bid announced last week that they were forming a super PAC of their own to convince Sanders supporters to back Biden. Chuck Rocha, another Sanders aide, also formed his own super PAC called the Western PAC that aims to mobilize Latino voters. Okay, so this is the big thing that people are pointing out. Justice Democrats is the latest group that is like one of those super lefty groups to form a super PAC. Now, there have been some people that have been saying, well, I mean, they still only accept money from the people, but it's a super PAC. I mean, to be fair, there have been issues, technically National Nurses United is a super PAC, but, it's an issue-based PAC, I guess. People usually don't mind issue-based PACs as much. But this is the thing. Justice Democrats was literally founded to, oppose super PACs. That was their big thing. Their big thing was we oppose super PACs. We're going to take down big moneyed interests in, the Democratic Party. That was why Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kulinski were the biggest founders of it. At one point, they were thinking of literally the only thing that they would have on their agenda would be, you don't take corporate PAC money. That was the one thing. The one thing. But I don't know what their plan is now. I mean, if they're forming a super PAC, it's why? Now, of course, Bernie, he didn't explicitly talk about this one because Bernie has not much to do with this group. But the one thing that has been this is just another thing, it seems that Justice Democrats, even though it was the one that I was personally the most interested in, because it was formed by Kyle Kulinski, and I really like Kyle Kulinski, but it seems that out of all of them, this group seems to be the strangest. Think about it. What are all the groups that were, founded right after, the Bernie campaign? People for Bernie, Brand New Congress, Justice Democrats. But it seems that Justice Democrats is the least hopeful of the bunch. Back in 2018, they had this huge slate of candidates, but they didn't really do much. It seems that they usually were we endorse you, the end. And I mean, if you're a small little political YouTuber like me, that's fine. If you're being I endorse you, the end. But if you're a big group, like Justice Democrats, that's kind of a bit of a no-no. You kind of have to do a lot more than just say, oh, we endorse you, you're cool. And, Justice Democrats, they also kind of they kind of show like why they can't really formally affiliate with Bernie. Justice Democrats. Like, they cut it off. Meanwhile, brand new Congress, they've been, they've been doing a bit better. Even during the 2018 primaries, there's a picture of like the entire brand new Congress slate and the entire just Democrat slate. But the difference between those two pictures is one is a picture of like all of them edited together to be like a big thing. Meanwhile, brand new Congress literally flew out their people to come together for this like group meeting. They're also open to many other people. They've endorsed independents. They've endorsed a Republican. They've endorsed one independent, one Republican. But I mean, hypothetically, if I don't know, I guess the offer hasn't really come up to them, but like, maybe if a Green did want to run with brand new Congress, they would. And also, brand new Congress seems more open to the idea of like just finding a person and sticking with them rather than like drafting someone else. Like during the California Senate race, David Hildebrand applied to be a member of the Justice Democrat slate, and he was turned down, and they drafted Allison Hudson to be the candidate instead. Now, I mean, not knocking Allison Hudson, but David Hildebrand wasn't exactly too keen on Justice Democrats kind of, dodging him. And also, brand new Congress, they just seem more helpful. Like when Humanist Report said it in his video where he talked about this, when he was interviewing a couple of people from brand new Congress called him up and said, "Yo, dude, if you want to interview more of our candidates, we have the information that can connect you to them in a snap." Like, they just seem more helpful and getting their candidates done in a, good way, I guess. Now, to be fair, they also, they've had similar success rates, I guess. And they usually do just, overlap in endorsements. I mean, it'd be weird if one day, there was a brand new Congress endorsed person, and then there was a Justice Democrats endorsed person, and then there was, people for Bernie endorsed candidate. If there were, 3 different candidates running together. But it doesn't really happen. That's never happened, and I don't will ever will. So, yeah, I was also contemplating making this move of, friendship with Justice Democrats over new friendship with brand new Congress. But it's I doubt it. But anyways, we need to address this thing. The people who are on the tippy top of Justice Democrats, they stink. The corporate head of, the group, they stink. Everyone's in agreement. Even Count Kulinski's in agreement. But that doesn't automatically mean that the candidates are bad. The candidates are still fighting for what they're fighting for. What the slate says, that's usually what the candidates are still fighting for. But, I would advise you, if you're going to donate money to Justice Democrats, don't do it through one of their shared links. You know what I'm talking about, those shared links where they're click this button to give money to all of our people. Yeah, don't donate to them with those links, but go to the individual candidates pages to donate. Okay, so the next story is about the New York primary. The New York Democrats were ordered by a judge to reinstate the primary, but they are also appealing that decision. So yeah, Yang didn't save democracy yet, but he might. We don't know. The New York City Democratic Party is just the most corrupt version of the Democratic Party. Like, isn't it weird? Like, the states that are always considered, like, the most liberal hippie types are, like, the ones with the most establishment corrupt Democratic parties. Like, I mean, California and New York, they're pretty just corrupted neolibs. It's weird. I don't understand. Though, to be fair, back in the day, it was also like that. I mean, I guarantee you, like, I don't even have to say I guarantee you, like, the Tennessee Democratic Party was so corrupt that one of their senators had to openly hate the person to show that he was a progressive. Okay, so the next story, I'm not sure if I'm the only person who's, like, had the same experience with this story, but maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Ahmaud Arbery, a African-American gentleman in Georgia, was hiking, well, not hiking, he was jogging, and then 2 white men shot him because why not? I mean, like, that's obviously sarcasm. Like, it's weird. This is weird. Like, the thing is, like, it's hard to describe because it's sort of like, is this real? Like, this sounds like something that is completely made up. This sounds like the most stereotypical, like, thing, like, oh, hey, I see that Negro, gotta kill him here. Like, it just seems so made up. And apparently, this happened 2 months ago. Apparently, nobody knew about it until, like, videos released and made public, like, on May 5th. It's like, what? This seems made up. Like, 2 white men in broad daylight just kill an African American for jogging. This seems like segregation era. But no, this happened 2 months ago. Seriously, this is... How did this happen? I mean, there's not much more I can say. 2 men... Okay, well, I mean, there is more I can say. Apparently, one of the men that was there was charged... Like, he was apparently affiliated with one of the state officials, and that's why they didn't tackle this until video footage was released. Which is, like... Again, this seems completely made up. Like, seems like something that people would do back in the day, but it's like, oh, but that was a time long forgotten. Now we're in the modern era. And it's like, this is 2020. Why? Okay, so we're gonna have to move on to the next story, which is another failure. Venezuelan's opposition leader paid U.S. company $213 million to overthrow Maduro. Juan Guaido literally paid paid Silver Corps, a military, like a private military group, and to go overthrow Maduro. I mean, not even to overthrow Maduro. They really tasked to kidnap him and then, like, take him away. It's like, again, this also seems made up, but no, it's not. This literally happened. Oh, and Guaido, like, this puts Guaido as, like, one of the most terrible people. Like, because here's how screwed up this operation was. This operation was dead on day one. You want me to tell you why? Okay, so, Guaido, he hired these people, and, apparently, like, two American citizens were arrested. Here's what happened. They tried to do the attack in broad daylight. They couldn't speak Spanish, and they were caught by fishermen. Fishermen! They were literally caught by fishermen. They weren't even caught by the Venezuelan army. No, they were caught by fishermen. Fishermen. Oh, and do you want to know what's funny? I read reports that Maduro and the Venezuelan military, like people in Venezuelan circles, were paying for Guaido's meetings with Silvercore. Because that's just a power move. Like, yeah, I know you're trying to overthrow me. And guess what? I'm like, seriously. Look, I don't care if you love Maduro and want to get on your knees for him, or if you hate Maduro. Let me say one thing that is apparently so controversial. Maduro is the president of Venezuela. Guaido is not. Guaido never even ran. And Guaido, like, he's not even, this isn't even a successful coup. It's not working at all. Like, Guaido is nowhere closer to the presidency than he was when all of this shit began. Like, seriously. He is nowhere closer to being president of Venezuela. Like, the closest he got was when he tried to get inside of, like, the presidential palace and he was, like, kicked out. That's pretty much it. And the thing is, like, legitimately nobody cares. Like, if anybody in the comment section right now thinks Guaido is the legitimate president of Venezuela, you're dumb. That's just the truth. He is not leader of Venezuela. Maduro is. I don't care if you hate Maduro or not. Maduro is the leader of Venezuela. Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Donald Trump is the President of the USA. Andrés Manuel López Obrador is the President of Mexico. These people were elected and am currently serving in the office. It's just an objective fact. That's, like, this, like, people don't like it when I say, like, oh, that's the case. But it is the case. He is currently serving, like, and I might say, oh, but the election was rigged. Well, I mean, yeah, it could be, but I've seen verifications that don't necessarily point to that conclusion. And besides, Mexico stole 2 presidential elections from the frontrunners, yet those frontrunners didn't get to magically serve their terms. Like, look, let's just cut to the chase. A friendly reminder to anybody who missed my rant earlier. Maduro, president of Venezuela. Guaido is nothing. He's not even in the chamber of Congress anymore. Like, he's nothing now. So anyways, now let's move on to the smaller candidate of the day, Max Abramson. Now you might say, wait, haven't you talked about him before? Well, yes, but Max Abramson decided to do a little different. He's now no longer seeking the Libertarian Party nomination for president. he's now seeking the nominations of the Veterans Party of America and the Reform Party, because the Reform Party is such a bastion of big political change, that thing that they have been ever since they didn't win the presidency. Now, I've actually talked about the Veterans Party of America in the 27th episode of the show, so I'll probably put like a little card, and, you can look up that. But, whatever. Okay, now let's move on to the main topic of this video. My 2020 Senate endorsements. Now, I think I may have talked about it before, but the races have changed a bit. So, why not go over it again? Give you a little bit of a refresher. There aren't that many because, believe it or not, Senate races were not that good this year, to be honest. There are a lot of people who aren't that good anymore. Like, first, let's start out with the bad news. Okay, so Justin Wooten, who was running in South Carolina, he didn't get enough money to make it on the ballot. So Jamie Harrison pretty much is running unopposed. Stephanie Rose Spalding is not going to be on the ballot she's not going to end up being on the primary ballot because she went through the convention process and she didn't get enough delegates. And obviously, Jensen Boren lost his primary against Mike Espy, but that was kind of expected. Oh yeah, and North Carolina Trevor Fuller, he didn't win that seat. So, yeah, there's not necessarily the... Oh yeah, and Akhenaten Amun is not going to be on the ballot in the Georgia Senate seat. So, yeah, there's been decent losses in the races. But we can't judge the past. We gotta move forward into the future. Okay, so first, this is interesting because we have two incumbents running that I actually kind of like. Okay, so the first incumbent is Senator Jeff Merkley. Merkley was the former Speaker and member of Oregon House of Representatives, and is the second furthest left of all the senators. And in the 2016 race, he endorsed Bernie. He didn't do it this time, and he was also actually speculated to run for president in this race. To be honest, I don't know why. I mean, Merkley's good on the issues. He's done decently well in voting. And he's even endorsed by Our Revolution in this race. So, yeah, he's an interesting figure, and I think he's worth keeping on in the Senate. Okay, so the next candidate is for the 2020 Massachusetts Senate race, Ed Markey. Markey was a former representative who has done really good in his record. He has a very long progressive record, as we all know. He's actually been the Senate sponsor for the Green New Deal, which is weird. I don't see why, AOC didn't go to Bernie or something, but, it seems interesting. And Markey his record is pretty good. I mean, he's got faults, obviously, but for the most part, his record is really good. He's like third best senator. Although, to be fair, I mean, who's his competition? He's got only two people who can technically count as his competition. And I mean, one of them barely beats him, and the other one is surpasses both of them in a wide variety of ways. So let me play this old Markey ad that kind of emphasizes who Markey is.
Ed Markey's desk was thrown out in the hall by the State House bosses because Markey fought to make judges work full time. Markey's bill is now the law.
I'm Ed Markey. I'm running for Congress because I want to fight for the principles that I believe in. Fairer taxes, more jobs, better health care. I'm tired of watching people suffer while politicians make their backroom deals. The bosses may tell me where to sit. No one tells me where to stand.
I mean, I kind of like that. I really want to keep that in the Senate. Though there's also one other issue. He's facing an uphill battle. Despite the fact that he's an incumbent, he's facing an uphill battle because his opponent is Joe Kennedy III, and he lives in Massachusetts, so he's not exactly doing so hot. In fact, he is the only senator in the 2020 elections that is poised to lose his primary. Now, Doug Jones is poised to lose the general election, but Markey's poised to lose the primary, but he's worth keeping around. Like, you could tell because the insurgent left groups, like Sunrise Movement, AOC, and Rokana, they've been endorsing Markey. Markey's worth keeping around. Now, you might not be too keen on Markey. That's fine, but I really think that it's worth keeping Markey around. Though if you told me the same thing about another Massachusetts senator, I'd probably disagree. But we'll not get to that. The next candidate is in the Georgia special election race. Richard Deanne Winfield. He's a philosophy professor, and he ran for Georgia District 10 in 2018, being the first 2018 campaign to run on a federal jobs guarantee. He's an interesting figure. He seemed to get a lot of press when he ran for his seat, and he's running another uphill battle. He's running against a DSCC endorsed candidate, and is running against the son of Joe Lieberman. Now, if I want a progressive to do something, I want them to take down the DSCC and a political dynasty. So, Deanne is really good. He's got the typical progressive platform: Medicare for all, green energy, and he's even going a step further because his federal job guarantee is poised to give everyone a job that pays $20 an hour. That's a bit of an interesting assessment. It's weird. It's interesting. Okay, so the next candidate is in the Kentucky Senate race. Charles Booker. Booker is Kentucky's youngest black state lawmaker and is running a progressive insurgency campaign against a blue dog Democrat, Amy McGrath. He currently has some other candidates in the field. Like, there's one guy called Mike Bronier, who is coming off the more populist energy. He's more like an Andrew Yang or a Tulsi Gabbard, whereas Booker's more of a, like a Bernie. But Booker, he's really good. Remember Steve Cox? The guy who was running for the seat that I endorsed previously? Yeah, Cox decided to endorse Booker because he's like, Booker's worth it. Booker is a really good candidate. He's with brand new Congress, and he's running a progressive campaign in Kentucky. Of course, it might not be the quote-unquote winning strategy that Amy McGrath seems to love, but, he's not compromising his ideals. Bronier, to be fair, I'll give Bronier some credit. He might be more appealing to the right wing, because, he doesn't look like a progressive. But, Booker is interesting. Like, he's a good candidate. I mean, I'm gonna do some compare and contrast between. Okay, and I also need to say, like, Bronier, he's gotten no support. Let's be honest. Booker's a state representative with support of, like, Sunrise Movement and Brand New Congress and, like, Paula Jean Swearingen, who may or may not be coming up, but, like, he's got all this big support. Now let me do some compare and contrast between Booker and the DSCC endorsed opponent that everybody seemed to be backing. First, let's see something about Booker.
Listen, I stood up, probably for the first time in the state's history, gave a monologue about what it would mean to be shot as a black man. Talked about Senate Bill 150. Talked about lynchings. Told you how my family was lynched. How some want to compare that to abortion. What a roller coaster I've been on this session. I've laid all my stories out for you. I explained to you how these types of laws, like 150, would kill people. And the same folks that want to have the audacity to vote yes now voted for that legislation.
Gentlemen, I apologize.
My life matters too, Speaker.
Your 3 minutes is up.
My life matters too, Speaker.
You are out of order. Your 3 minutes are up.
All right, listen to Booker. He's giving a passionate speech about something that matters to him a lot. Let's hear Amy McGrath give a sort of speech of some kind.
Well, you're right to say that Senator McConnell is a very formidable foe. I think if you think about why Kentuckians voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump promised to drain the swamp, bring back jobs, do big things in infrastructure, do things like bring down drug prices. And a lot of these things are being halted by Senator McConnell.
Mitch McConnell has a 94.2% voting alignment with Donald Trump. They align 94.2% of the time. You're going to sit here and pretend that the 6.8% of the time that he doesn't align with him is magically the good ones. You know, most Democrats, at the very least, have gone down to the point where they criticize Trump. But Amy McGrath is like, no, I'm going to run to Trump. No. Literally compromising your beliefs for BS. Like, I mean, her campaign is, like, I mean, a lot of people also like talking about, like, the fact that, you know, she hasn't won an office yet. She ran for a high-profile seat and didn't even win. She didn't even win the seat. But, whatever. She's actually ran against a guy who I also endorsed, Jeff Young. So, yeah. Screw her. Okay, so next is Colorado. Now, the field has narrowed. It is now Hickenlooper versus Romanov. Andrew Romanov is my endorsement, because I'm not endorsing Hickenlooper. Now, of course, Andrew Romanov wasn't as progressive as, like, Stephanie Ross Spalding or Lorena Garcia, but they're not on the ballot anymore. Lorena Garcia, she was kicked off because she didn't get enough signatures because of coronavirus. Spalding didn't, do well. But Romanov, he's a pretty good progressive candidate. He's run on left issues before. Like, he ran for Senate against Michael Bennet, again, as a progressive challenger. And he was even, like, Obama actually tried to pressure him to back down so that he could give Bennett could just walk away with the nomination. But Romanov didn't have that. He was like, no. So, yeah. Romanov is what we gotta do to keep Hickenlooper out. And this seat is also, it's big because this is a seat that is, a flipper. It's, yeah, I mean, look, even if you don't like Romanov as much, you'd rather have Romanov in there than Hickenlooper. Okay, so the next candidate is, in Maine, Betsy Sweet. She was a candidate for governor in 2018. She's an activist. And ran in... Because her campaign is interesting because Maine has ranked choice voting. And that's interesting. And this is, again, also a flippable seat. In fact, so much so that they've actually went so far as to raise like $3 million. Like, I don't know, like, I know it's probably not that much, but like, they raised like $3 million to go to whoever the Democratic nominee is because of her decision to vote for Brett Kavanaugh. Now, I would 100% be on board with the ranked choice voting, and I am. You know, there's another candidate in the race, Bree Kidman, who's running a bit of a different campaign. You see, Betsy Sweet's running more of the traditional, like, progressive, grassroots populist, like a Paul Wellstone type. Whereas Bree Kidman's running more of the newfangled, you know, eat the rich, edgy Joshua Collins type people, like, you know, one of those Twitter campaigns. Everybody, like, they're running two different campaigns, but they're running to similar crowds. And there were quite a few other people who were running, but currently the race is down to Gideon, Kidman, and Sweet. Gideon is the, you know, DSCC endorsed candidate, and it really appears like they're trying, especially considering Maine has tried to undermine ranked choice voting before, maybe they're trying to get Gideon, you know, winning on the first ballot. That's my only concern. I mean, otherwise, I'm all for ranked choice voting 100%. So, I mean, if you were a person who, like, I mean, I would advise voting Betsy Sweet on ballot 1, but if you're not really in the more Betsy Sweet crowd, you're like a more of a Bree Kidman, you know, because Bree Kidman's like a Rose Caucus candidate, whereas Betsy Sweet, again, is the, you know, like a Justice Democrats type. I mean, minus the PAC money. But, you know, otherwise she's, I like, Betsy Sweet's my personal choice. But again, it's ranked choice voting, so there's not really much issue. Okay, so Wyoming. Now, again, what you're thinking, Wyoming? Really? Who cares about Wyoming? I know I don't. I mean, at least I didn't until this candidate came to mind. Yana Ludwig, a socialist podcaster running in Deep Red, Wyoming. She's running an interesting campaign. It's interesting. You know, she's running a socialist campaign in Wyoming. It's like Jensen Bronin, who ran as a DSA-endorsed candidate in Mississippi. It's an interesting concept. Will she win? I don't know. Probably not. But she's running, and I endorse good candidates. Next is West Virginia. Now, I mean, the race is Richard Ojeda and Paula Jean Swearingen. So, the race, it was pretty hard for me to choose. Oh wait, no it wasn't. It was easy. Paula Jean Swearingen, 100%. Now, I know what you may be thinking, but what about Richard Ojeda? Didn't you like Richard Ojeda? Yeah, emphasis on did you. Like, I don't really like him that much anymore. Now, there are quite a few reasons. You see, turns out he was a lot more moderate than I thought. Like, I mean, Kyle Kalinske made him seem like he was a super lefty, and, well, he's a populist, don't get me wrong, but he's also pretty, quote-unquote, moderate. Like, he stated he has never voted for a Democratic candidate for president ever. And considering his whole spiel was like, oh, I voted for Trump in 2016, I highly doubt that he's actually, endorsed. I highly doubt he voted for Ralph Nader in any of those elections. It means he more than likely voted for Romney over Obama. And really? You vote for Romney over Obama? Like, I don't like Obama, but, like, really? And that was what I thought Richard Ojeda was going to be. He was going to represent the two-time Obama voter that voted for Trump. Like, he would show, like, the Democrats lost their roots with the working class. And, I mean, he does have he is, like, a working class type person, don't get me wrong. And he's run decent campaign ads about those, like, issues. But Richard Ojeda, he's shown that he's a lot more moderate. Like, he's endorsed Amy McGrath. His presidential campaign went, like, nowhere. And he likes Joe Manchin. And he really hates Paula Jean Swearengin. Like, there's one, he's outright stated he voted for Joe Manchin over Paula Jean Swearengin. Now, there's another thing that it hit me, but it's interesting. Remember his whole spiel about, like, oh, I voted for Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton in the primary, but I couldn't vote for her in the general election, so I voted for Donald Trump. That was his whole spiel. That was his whole claim to fame. Okay? And I tried to do some digging because he was a public official at the time. Did he make an endorsement of Bernie? Did he outright say, I'm voting for Bernie Sanders? Now, I did the digging, and I couldn't find any information of him voting for Bernie. The earliest mention of Bernie Sanders on his any online presence was when he was asked, like, he mentions Bernie in a comment on Twitter in 2017. Paula Jean Swearengin, she tagged Bernie in 2016. And to be fair, Paula Jean Swearengin wasn't a public official at the time. She's just your average Joe Schmo politician. I mean, that seems weird to say. Average Joe Schmo politician. But, like, she's not she's a person who decided to run, to run. Not because she wanted to get in the presidency, but because she saw the issues and she felt she had to fight for them. But, I mean, Ojeda, he's like, again, he just seems weirdly, I don't get it. He seems to be, he even outright mentions he's a moderate on his Facebook page. I don't even think I could support Ojeda in the general election at this point. Because Ojeda's been weird. Like, and I mean, it's also kind of just disappointing, like, I followed him on Twitter because I wanted to see, like, the hard-hitting takes, like, him, like, you remember, there's a campaign ad of his, I can say word for word, because I remember, I've watched it so many times, it was so great, it was wonderful. It was the angry ad where he's like, I'm Richard Ojeda, and people say I'm angry, well, angry is an understatement, and when I came home, I found that children living in my backyard have it worse than kids I saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, I can't accept that. Like, that ad was so great. But, I mean, I followed for that, and then when I got there, he just posts Trump boomer memes, like, Trump is bad! Like, the ad, he literally says, we've been sold out by people like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and the Washington Insiders. He doesn't talk about Nancy Pelosi anymore. I don't get it. What happened, Rogetta? Yeah, Paula Jean 2020. Okay, so the next candidate is Kimberly Graham for the Iowa Senate seat. She's running against Senator Joni Ernst. She's, I think, the second brand new Congress endorsed person who was in the Senate seat. Okay, there was actually like Maggie something Oliver she ran for New Mexico Senate seat for like 2 days. And then she decided, nah, Ben Ray Luan, pretty good. And I don't get it, but, you know, I don't care. She's not running anymore, so Kimberly Graham is doing well. I think she would be a good senator. There's like a DSCC endorsed person in that seat. That's obvious, I think. Okay, so next is the Louisiana Senate seat. Antoine Pierce. He's a community activist and radio host, and was a 2-time Baton Rouge candidate. He's running, a decently progressive campaign, and is the only Democrat running so far. To be fair, it's not like this seat is a flipper. It's not gonna flip. But there's this one person that always seems to be in the talks of like running as a Louisiana candidate, Mitch Landrieu, but he never does anything. Let's make Antoine Pierce the next Huey Long. Minus the dying. Okay, so next is the 2020 Arkansas Senate race, where we have Dan Whitfield, who's an independent candidate. He's a progressive independent who is going to be not the sole opposition, but is going to be opposing the Republican alone. Now you might say, well, what do you mean? Well, the Democrats ran a candidate, but then when they ran a candidate, they wait until when they got to the end, when it was the filing deadline, the Democrat dropped out of the race because of health issues from a family member, and now they can't pick a replacement candidate. So Dan Whitfield will be pretty much the, sole opposition candidate. And now it's interesting, obviously, and especially considering the fact that this, let me tell you the recent poll numbers that have been done in this race. All right, so the polling has been done like this. Tom Cotton is going to win, obviously, but this will be an interesting race for third-party candidates, because here's the polling right now. Tom Cotton, 59%, Dan Whitfield, 14%, Ricky Harrington, 5%. Ricky Harrington is a Libertarian, undecided, 22%. Okay, that's just when they give the candidates just who they are. These are the 3 candidates' names, and these are their party affiliations. But when they add the caveat of Whitfield is pretty much running as an alternative to the Democrats, he's pretty much the alternative of the Democratic candidates. I even flat out said that maybe the Democrats should flat out go to, Whitfield and ask, hey, you want to, form a coalition. That would be interesting, but it doesn't appear like that's going to happen, so whatever. I think Whitfield will do well. If that second number is any indication, he'll do pretty dang well. Alright, so the next candidate is Larry Hamm for the New Jersey Senate seat. Larry Hamm is a organizer for the chairman of People's Organization for Progress, and he's a very progressive candidate. Lisa McCormick was originally running for the seat, but she dropped out to run for Congress, so Larry Hamm's kind of the go-to guy now. He's running a progressive campaign as well, so I was afraid that those two would probably, go against each other, but Larry Hamm seems to be the biggest opposition against Cory Booker now, so let's go Larry Hamm. In the Nebraska Senate race, which is coming up, I'm endorsing Angie Phillips. She's a working class mother, a community organizer, and a human rights advocate. She's running against the quote-unquote Trump maverick, Ben Sasse. Now, there are a couple of other candidates that are also kind of interesting, but Angie Phillips just happened to be the one that caught my eye the most. Well, the first one to reveal a platform, so ergo, she got the endorsement. Okay, she was the first one to reveal a platform that was worth endorsing. Green New Deal, Medicare for All, campaign finance reform, abolish ICE, legalize marijuana, typical stuff. She's not endorsed by the Cannabis Rights Party of Nebraska, someone else is, but he's also a pretty good candidate, so one of those two is pretty good. But I would prefer Angie because then I wouldn't have to change my website. In the 2020 Delaware Senate race, there's Jessica Scarane. She's running a Carrie Evelyn Harris-like primary against Chris Coons and a former Republican. She's running a really good campaign. Again, same typical stuff. Medicare for All, Green New Deal, $15 minimum wage, ending the wars. She also has the added bonus of, aggressively going against Sesta and Fosta. And I think she's a Rose Caucus endorsed candidate, if I remember correctly. The next candidate is, in the Minnesota Senate race, Paula Overby. For those of you who don't remember Paula Overby, I endorsed her in the 2018 midterms when she ran as a Green Party candidate. Now, I guess she's decided to dem-enter instead of dem-exit, but, I'm loyal to the ideas, so she's a good candidate, and I fully am behind her. Okay, so next is the Kansas Senate race, and this candidacy is kind of put on hold for the moment, but, she's a good candidate. Usha Reddy. Brent Welder and James Thompson are not going to vie for the seat. Thompson has a legitimate reason why, but, Usha is a pretty good candidate as well. She's got typical lefty platforms, but she's a good candidate. Hopefully this is just a pause and I'll fall on suspension, otherwise I'm wasting my time on my website. And the last one is the Illinois Senate race. This may change in the future because this has changed 2 times already. You see, I originally endorsed someone named Ann Stava Murray, but she dropped out. Then I endorsed Marilyn Jordan Lawlor, but she also dropped out. And now I'm endorsing Patrick Fegus, who is an independent candidate. Those two were Democrats, but he's an independent, so he's probably going to stick to the general election. Or maybe not. Maybe he doesn't even get on the ballot. And then I'll have to endorse the Green Party candidate. But otherwise, he's a pretty good candidate. Universal health care, get money out of politics. Separation of church and state. Corporations pay their fair share. Good platform. He's a pretty good candidate. And he would be a worthier senator than Dick Durbin. So yeah, those are my 2020 Senate endorsements so far. They will change in the future, but hopefully I'll be able to put the senator label next to them. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when the future video comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora, go to my Discord, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.